So this past week, Kelly and I, obviously we like each other, we traveled nearly 2,000 miles to Texas and back for the eclipse in a 5,000-pound truck pulling a 7,500-pound trailer. We had to stop for a lot of fuel. The irony of also spending the week contemplating a sermon called Traveling Light was not lost on me. The universe was having a good laugh at that one. So Kelly and I enjoyed the refrigerator and the cozy beds, and the toilet was really nice because some of y'all were out there with scorpions using the little porta potty. So we had all the creature comforts. And while I'm proud that I have never purchased a Ziploc or trash bag in my life, I certainly do not always travel light. And like most of us, I love wildflowers, and I love little creatures that we share this world with. And the pollution and destruction of wild places and this planet breaks our hearts. But sometimes we jump on the bandwagon of consumerism anyway, maybe because we just can't bear to think about the harm that our actions are causing. And if we do decide to discipline ourselves to resist the temptation to buy and consume, then we can be left feeling like martyrs for a lost cause. And that is lonely and it's frustrating. And why miss out on the party if our sacrifices aren't going to do any good anyway? Our capitalist system has evolved to where the decisions like Kelly shared that corporations and lawmakers are making are based on commerce, not on sustainability. The paradigm of economics is grow, 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 and more, more, more. And things are set up so that just a simple desire not to contribute to the single-use plastics madness requires forethought and planning and swimming against the tide. We pull oil from the earth, we send it to the refinery, we ship it to a manufacturer where we manufacture a plastic spoon. Then we package the plastic spoon in more plastic, and we transport it to a distributor, and then it gets transported again to a retail site. Then the consumer buys it and transports it, takes it home, so it can be used maybe it gets used, maybe it doesn't, for 10 minutes. Then it's thrown away in a plastic garbage bag with other trash hauled to a landfill where that spoon will spend centuries breaking down into microplastics, which will most likely end up in the sea or in animals or in the food chain or in us. And Kelly was telling me also in the air that we are breathing microplastics, all of us. That is an incredible amount of energy and transport and a massive carbon footprint for a spoon. And some spoons go through all that and they never even get used. How many have you gotten from the fast food and thrown away? And this is not an isolated incident. That spoon is joined by 100 million pieces of plastic cutlery in going to the landfill from the US per day. Plastic utensils have been banned now in France and England and Canada, and the impact of that legislation is exponentially more powerful than me saving my plastic spoons and putting them in the dishwasher to reuse. But nonetheless, I've been saving and reusing plastic food containers and utensils and bringing my bags and Tupperware to restaurants for the last 30 years, even though I know it's only a drop in the bucket. And it can be so discouraging. My little attempts are so minuscule and the magnitude of the problem is so massive. I used to feel self-conscious about being that weirdo, but as you all know, I don't care anymore. I'm that weirdo. But what does get me down, that doesn't get me down anymore. Proud to be weird. But what does get me down is feeling like the solitary voice in the crowd that's shouting, "Stop!" And sometimes I give up. Hence the truck and camper going all the way to Texas and back. I remember being a young adult and swearing that I would never be one of those complacent middle-aged people who gave up on my principles. But now I am a middle-aged person living in the modern world, and I have learned that to keep my sanity, I must pick my battles. Sometimes I take the path of comfort and convenience and pull the camper to Texas because I've found that the middle road helps me to not become too rigid, too self-sacrificing, too alienated from everybody else. And when I go down that road, I start feeling like I'm better than other people, more conscious and caring, and therefore generally superior, because I saved my plastic spoon to reuse with indignant superiority. But that's not really good for anybody. It eats away at our souls if we do the right thing, but we do it from a place of resentment. When we operate from a judgment, my computer won't move. When we operate from a mindset of judgment or frustration, it's easy to get overwhelmed with the excess and the mindless pollution piling up around us, and to get frustrated with all the people who simply don't care. And our anger and our indignation can weigh us down. We can become bitter and self-righteous. Or we can turn it inward and start feeling defeated and hopeless and depressed. That heartbreak can change us, and it can rob us of our joy. And of course, it's not a joyful situation, what's going on. But we are on a journey here, a journey that poet Mary Oliver calls our one wild and precious life. And this is it, no dress rehearsal. So how do we choose to be in this life? It's worth considering that Mary Oliver, who shared this hurting planet with us, she's now a blessed memory, but what if she had let the horrors that she knew about this world destroy her joy and curiosity? We would not have her beautiful poetry to inspire and guide us. The world is better for the gifts of Mary Oliver, and she was able to keep herself from being consumed by all of its problems. Each of us, every single one of us, has our own version of gifts to share, just like Mary Oliver. As babies, we're born with curiosity and an amazement and a natural joy of life. And it's right and good that we don't stay innocent babies. We learn the difficult truths about the world around us. But it's hard to know what we know and not let it get us down. But we can and we must develop our skills, not just to survive, but to thrive in the midst of the apocalypse. Kelly and I, we lived together 25 years ago in England, single mothers, and we started having this conversation then, and it continues today, struggling to live with this knowledge about things going to heck in a handbasket, but also to not lose hope. Where Kelly lives, she swims with sea turtles regularly in Byron Bay. And on her hikes in Australia, sometimes she tiptoes by the wallabies so as not to disturb them, and makes sure she doesn't get too close to the big scary bands of kangaroo. This is my interpretation. And this past week in Texas, Kelly was absolutely delighted at seeing her first chattering prairie dogs. And that joy was infectious. And that joy is not a luxury. That joy is a necessity. This planet is irreplaceable, and it is worth saving. And we must develop skills to learn to live in the shadow of these big, unresolved questions, and to coexist with our uncertainty and with the limitations that we have as individual human beings. Because just as the plastic cups and discarded clothing are piling up all around us, so are the wildflowers. Chattering prairie dogs and dandelions growing up between the cracks in the concrete call us to notice and to be delighted. For me, in order to stay happy and healthy and motivated, my work to save the planet, building eco-villages, had to transform from something I did to achieve a certain outcome into something I do to feed my soul and create beauty. I had to replace my indignant self-righteousness with a spirit of doing this work as a spiritual practice and to focus on the journey instead of the outcome. Cultivating our consciousness about how we spend our money, how we travel, how we vote, what we consume, can be hopeful and curious work. The only way to truly get ourselves out of this mess is by making systemic and legislative change, and we must work for that change on the macro level. But does that mean that we should give up as individuals? I don't think so. The trick is to remember that joy and wonder when we carry our reusable cup or our shopping bag or cut our fossil fuel use or buy reused clothing. What if each time we use the metal cutlery in the dishwasher rather than the disposables, we did it as a little gift to the earth, a prayer of hope? It is the opposite of despair to acknowledge that while little changes in our individual lives as consumers or in our little church are a drop in the bucket, but it's our drop in the bucket, and we want to be the best little drop in the bucket that we can be. So investing in greening up our church with solar panels and an EV charger, and I'm hoping we will have zero waste gatherings in the future. That can be an expression of hope. Sustainable choices can be made as a prayer to our Mother Earth. My little bamboo eating utensils that have been tucked away in my purse are a tiny spark of hope. And aesthetics, a small reminder of my tender heart and my love for this planet. As Holly Near's song says, I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would be so strange.